Hey guys, this is miicrow here. The devs put out a new economy video recently that we're not going to be talking about today. They also put out a new Crossworld Expedition, kind of PTR focused event that has a few interesting changes, and I kind of wanted to walk through that today. There's no official dev notes for this patch. They're basically just like, hey, we opened up a PTR, come test it, help us stress test this like new queue-based system with Crossworld Improved Group Finder. But there's a few things that you can data mine using neural data sheets, which is a cool GitHub repo that stores stuff from JSON. There's one with the YAML format, which is a little bit more readable that I'm going to be using today. And using those and New World Buddy, which has a PTR section now up, we're able to see some new things that are pretty cool. There's this new spicy hot pot food that increases your faction token gain by 25% and increases your yield by 15% for 60 minutes. So obviously like a pretty solid food to just pop whenever you're either yielding, which is like just cutting down logging, mining, cutting down trees, mining, skinning, harvesting. Like it's good for all those. Also, if you're doing like some influence thing, like faction tokens, increasing that is like always nice. And then the other thing that's very interesting is added in this like health refreshing set for this new Lunar New Year event, which was data mined from this. And that Lunar New Year event seems to have some themes of like darkness being conquered by like fireworks, and like as in the theme with like fireworks and Lunar New Year. We got Dragon Skill kind of gear. This is con gear that's upgradable with a 700 gear score that comes with health and refreshing. Choose the last perk. So honestly, pretty nice. Nice that they didn't like kind of force the magnify theme. Definitely like interesting at the least, and is somewhat useful. If you guys can't see that because of chat, because I forgot to cover that up. This is what that gear looks like from a heavy side. So health refreshing on every single piece. And the new spicy food that has the faction token effect, which is nice. I don't know where you get this food right now, but it's gonna be useful, and obviously will be used a lot. The other thing that I would argue is like a bigger change that's been happening recently is they added some kind of matchmaking stuff that wasn't just intended for this kind of queue-based system. So you can see like the changes over the last 3 months in terms of like the patch size and like what actually gets added using this kind of cool Git lens tool within VS Code. So if I look maybe a little bit further back than 3 months, like maybe 6 months, then we can see like the size of patch changes for like relatively. So this is like the new expansion like area. You can see how big those patches are. This patch is a little bit smaller, but still is pretty significant in terms of size. There's some hidden changes on here. And one of those big hidden changes here is the fact that they're adding in some sort of matchmaking based system to 3v3s, which is kind of nice. So if we go down here, I think I went past it actually. Yeah, let me go back up so I can see the actual changes here on the right. This first one here is Outpost Rush. So Outpost Rush are adding in those bare bones for the matchmaker itself. You have to be between 60 and 65. This is already known. This is what it was before. There's a minimum gear score. That's not been added yet, and all of these fields are fields that they can kind of play with that were added for the actual dungeon-based matchmaking. Now, if we go down to 3v3, which is right here, you could see that you need to be level 20 because there's that one quest and it says, hey, you can do 3v3 when you're level 20 for some reason, when everyone wishes that it was just 60 plus, but it is what it is. They add in a minimum amount of tanks, a maximum amount of tanks, healers, DPS. You see that these are all capped out at 3, so it's like nothing too significant there. But the thing that's like somewhat significant that they're tuning or they're adding in is if you queue as a healer in 3v3, you need to have at least a level 5 life staff, which is kind of nice. So that's going to be a good quality of life thing. There's also a few other things that are kind of interesting. Like there's like a newer game mode that they said they add. You have to be 500 gear score. Or this wasn't a game before, so I don't actually know what this is. It says test mode 1. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but it says you need to have at least 1 tank, maximum of 3 tanks, at least 1 healer, maximum of 3 healers, at least 5 DPS, probably maximum of 10 players or something like that. Seems like size for like a small like group like Spriggan or like some like one of those like open world like lower level bosses. It's like we have to be 500 gear score above. So it's like they're adding in potentially some matchmaker stuff for that, but the main thing here is they're adding in like bare bones stuff for the matchmaker itself. So it's like the potential could be expanded upon this and then like used for other things like OPR. You can see that infrastructure is finally starting to come into place and hopefully result in a little bit better queues at one point where you have people queuing for maybe tank, healer, and DPS or OPR. Maybe that's not applicable. They do something like ranged, melee DPS. They do healer, maybe a tank queue or something like that, and then they can bounce the healers per team. They can bounce the amount of groups per team and like that sort of thing. But they're starting to add in that infrastructure to kind of have that stuff take place, which is nice. That's it in terms of like the major changes. There are some like seasonal events too. Like there's this new gift sack bundle that's going to be coming that's in the theme of the Lunar New Year related event. That will be nice. The pug stuff has rewards that you can get from doing this mutated kind of expedition setup, and those rewards are kind of talked about in here. There's a new crate that you can get, like a daily sort of bonus that gives like 10k faction tokens and stuff, which is kind of nice. Nothing else is too big. Like there's the things that say like status changes, and it's like, oh my gosh, I added some like new effect, and it's like, nah, it's not really a thing. But the food I think is the big thing here. The food's gonna be really nice, and then the new gear is like something that's gonna be in line with something that we've kind of seen before in terms of other gear, but it's like nice that they're adding a new set that isn't necessarily magnified, that could be used for more classes, and that's like the main thing going on with this new patch.